Something dark is here, flying in the skies, lurking in the woodlands, swimming in the rivers, and hiding under your bed. Join me, Mark L. Watson, and Fearscape Media as we delve into the paranormal, the occult, the spiritual, and the esoteric, and peer beyond the veil. Find us everywhere you get your podcasts or search for more information at fearscapemedia.com.
Hello. This is Leroy Jenkinson. And welcome to episode 4 of Wishful Drinking and Binge Thinking. Because it's always a good idea to mix psychological discussions and alcohol. Now, today's topic was suggested to me by a friend, and I'm totally on board with, because it has been dreary and rainy here all day. I locked my keys in my car and had to call AAA, had a bad work review, and some other things went wrong this week, so let's talk about depression. Yeah. Gonna be that kind of fun episode. Saddle up, Hoss. Today I am drinking E&J brandy, which was a gift by my lovely friend Siobhan. She said that she had been in Chicago before during the winter months, and brandy helped her get through that blizzardy type weather and the dreariness. So she actually had some delivered to me about a month ago, and I'm still working on it. So thanks, Siobhan. This one's for you. Depression's a hard one. Like, how do you make that shit amusing? You don't. So I guess I'll just be myself, and the amusement will come. Truth and comedy and whatnot. But I'm going to do something a little different this week. I used to teach a class on the neurotransmitters involved in anxiety and depression. Just like an overview, not in depth, because fuck, even researchers don't know exactly what they all do. So I'm going to try to do a video simultaneously, like as I do this podcast. So if that fucks everything up, then shit, I won't try it again. But I think it would be a cool visual for everyone to have, and it seemed to help a lot of people I used to work with understand how their brain was functioning. And as we all know, I fucking love talking about the brain. I mentioned that in my last episode last month, which, to be honest with you, was not my best work. I was weird drunk, and I talked about the limbic system for about 30 minutes without actually saying anything. It's like, say fight or flight one more time. Fight or flight. Alright, podcasters, if you are intrepid enough to venture to my YouTube channel, which I will put in my Facebook and Instagram post links, you can find this video somewhere on the YouTubes. Oh, fuck. I'm gonna have to move around for this shit, aren't I? Okay, so, hi world. This is me. This is what I look like when I'm filming an episode, sorta. I usually don't have pants on, but I do this time because you don't want to see that. Okay, so delving right in, there are some neurotransmitters that you need to be familiar with. That is dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, and glutamate? That's like the new fun trend everyone's researching, so they don't have a ton of information about it yet. But everybody thinks it's important when it comes to depression, so we'll find out. The truth is, our brain is still a fucking mystery. That's the final frontier. Shit, we don't know. We've been studying this thing for decades and we don't know a goddamn thing about it. So that's why I guess it's so interesting to me. It's still so mysterious. Okay, so what I drew here is a beautiful picture of a brain. Look at that brain. Look at that little temporal lobe slipping off there. That's a thick ass brainstem. That brainstem's thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. And as you can see, I zoomed in on the brain and I drew a little picture of what a neuron looks like within the brain. And branching off from the neuron, you have axons and dendrites. Now, dendrites are all over the goddamn place, but axons are like the big, stalky, tree trunk type version of the dendrites. Dendrites are the branches, and the axon is the trunk of the tree of knowledge. So, as you can see in the picture, if you're looking at my video, the dendrites meet up with each other because our brain has a bajillion neurons in it. So when those dendrites meet up, they send information between each other. Chemicals, neurotransmitters. This is where they do their job. So what I'm going to do while attempting to draw on a whiteboard while holding a microphone. Fuck. Brandy hits me different. This is interesting. A fucking glare on this. Okay. I'm going to circle this area. And we're going to zoom in there where the dendrites meet each other. And this is called the synapse. So, in this area, we've got two lovely little, I don't know what to fucking call it other than a synapse. Shit. So imagine, if you're not watching the video, that there is one little bubble. The bubble at the end of one of the tree limbs. And this has a little hole in it. And this is where it releases different chemicals so that it can meet up with the other dendrite on the other side of the synapse. If you're watching Looney Tunes, you're watching Wile E. Coyote, and he is on top of a cliff. He's in that Grand Canyon area he always seems to hang out in. And there's that big cliff in between. This is the area in between the synapses. It's the synaptic cleft, I want to say. Shit, it's been a while. Anyway, neurotransmitters travel along the synaptic cleft. They're like Wile E. Coyote trying to get from one cliff to the other by jumping across. And sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, as you can see, there are receptors on the other end of the dendrite. So, we have a channel where information is passed from one dendrite to the other. And this is how information is passed within your brain. These chemicals go back and forth, and they tell your brain how you're feeling, which then distributes that throughout the rest of your body. So this is where we get into all of the different neurotransmitters and how they affect what's happening within you. So we have, imagine little bubbles filled with all kinds of dots, which is what I'm drawing. Now, all of those dots are their neurotransmitters, and the bubbles are the proteins and everything that make them. So these want to release. it's their job to go outside and travel down to the receptor and send out positive, happy vibes. So, there are a lot of different things that could happen with depression. So, all of those little bubbles could be bad at producing the neurotransmitters, all the little dots inside of the bubble. So maybe your body just isn't making enough of a certain thing. Maybe you just don't have enough serotonin or don't have enough dopamine to be happy or to get that pleasant experience when the neurotransmitter travels through the synaptic cleft to the receptor in the other dendrite. Hey, cat. So you could also have other issues. You could have a receptor that doesn't unlock when the protein gets there or the neurotransmitter gets there. You could have a greedy ass cleft. And what I mean by that is that the cleft that is releasing the neurotransmitters into the I keep saying cleft. So the synapse that is sending all of the neurotransmitters down to these receptors, it could be greedy and it could hang on to them. It brings them all back up so none of them are actually delivered to the receptor, which becomes an issue. And that's where serotonin reuptake inhibitors work. They stop your main synapse from being greedy and hanging on to things and let it just send them along so they follow their own path and get to the receptors and do their job. That's why so many different medications work for different people. Some people might like tricyclic antidepressants, others like the SSRIs. Like there are so many different causes of depression. So when you say you have a chemical imbalance, that could be so many different things causing it that they don't even know if they've done enough research to figure out all of the different ways that it's affecting your brain. Now, some people believe that this chemical imbalance is the total explanation for everything. I think it's a combination of stuff. You could have these discrepancies in your neurotransmitters and not feel severe effects of depression, I believe. But maybe there are external events that exacerbate that. Either way, there's a lot of different things that could go wrong within that whole neurotransmitter process that could lead to feeling depressed and not having enough energy. Anxiety, it works in a similar way. It also has to do with some of those chemicals that are going back and forth between synapses. But what you're working with anxiety is more of the norepinephrine and GABA. I feel like I should have explained these neurotransmitters first. Okay, so the main ones are dopamine, which is the happy chemical. It's basically the thing that makes you super happy. It's why drug addicts keep using drugs, because they get that rush of dopamine and it gives them a reward. It's called the reward center, or at least people refer to it as that. Serotonin is kind of like a homeostasis type chemical. It makes sure that everything is balanced. It wants you to feel chill and content. So that's what serotonin does. Then you got norepinephrine, which is kind of goes along with cortisol in that it's the whole fight or flight response. It goes along with the adrenaline, even though it's not released by the adrenal glands, but it promotes that from the adrenal glands. So norepinephrine adds stress to your system, basically. And stress is a good thing if you need to run away or fight something, but if you don't, having it there isn't a good thing, which is why you have GABA. Now, GABA is a big, fancy, complicated word, and I honestly can't even totally remember what it stands for, But either way, it's the chill out chemical. it's what takes the norepinephrine and says, shut the fuck up, we need to calm down for a minute. So when you don't have enough GABA, your anxiety is through the goddamn roof because your norepinephrine is going like crazy and there's no GABA there to tell it to shut the hell up. And then you've got glutamate. Fuck, I don't even know totally what glutamate does. We'll figure it out eventually, I assume. Anywho, so there are a lot of things that could cause chemical imbalances in the brain. So the molecules or the enzymes that make the neurotransmitters may not be making enough, or there aren't enough of those enzymes to develop enough. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't have enough receptor sites on the receiving end, so you can only take in so much dopamine or something to be happy, but you don't have enough to be extra happy. Your greedy ass synapse could take it back up before it has a chance to reach the receptor site, or there aren't enough just neurotransmitters being produced in general. Maybe you got some lazy ass enzymes that aren't pulling their weight and developing shit. Guess we'll find out, science. You wanna update us with that one whenever you figure it out? Figure it out. 10-4. Other Letterkenny references. Now that we've established the chemical basis of depression-ish, that was like layman's explanations. It's way deeper and more complicated than that. But let's talk about what the fuck you do about it. So, depression and anxiety are like the two biggest shitstorms facing everyone, especially after the last fucking year. Shit, I don't know who didn't experience some level of depression after being shut up in your homes and forced to not do things all the time. I think that levels of depression and anxiety have increased in people that would not have otherwise shown symptoms without this global pandemic that has wreaked havoc on everyone's mental health. But honestly, as an introvert, I didn't find that bad. Okay, so let's talk about coping skills for depression. They look very different from the coping skills for anxiety. So when you're anxious, you're very overstimulated about things, and it's very good to remove yourself from those stimulating things. Maybe find a quiet space or a dark room or somewhere you can go to like remove yourself from the situation. And I spoke a little bit about this in the last episode, or at least I hope I did. I haven't listened to it recently because honestly I thought it was so fucking bad. But hyper focusing and things like that really tend to help people who are having panic attacks or severe reactions to anxiety. Sorry, I was pouring myself another drink. I don't know if you could tell as I was talking. I'm a multitasker. I'm so good at that shit. And like, I know you say that you can't actually multitask and it's just your brain hopping back and forth from different things at the same time, but tell that to my hands that are bringing a drink to my mouth while I'm talking about something else and I'm not even thinking about doing it. Okay, they're probably right because I did have to think about that hand motion for a second. But anyway, coping with anxiety looks like removing yourself from very difficult stimuli. And hyper-focusing is very good for that. I had a lot of clients in a detox facility who would be having a panic attack, and I would help them try to get their breathing on track. and try to distract them with other things, such as I would ask them if they preferred math or language. And I would ask them to spell certain words or do certain equations to help take their mind off of their issues with being able to breathe or feeling really anxious or panicked about something in particular. So I think that depression is kind of the opposite of that. When you're depressed, you tend to withdraw and retreat into yourself. Depression is staying in bed and not getting out. It is not answering your text messages or emails or answering phone calls. It is cordoning yourself off from everyone because you just don't have the energy to do so. So, depression is something that it's hard to fight in the moment, but if you know that this is an issue for you, you can set things up in advance that will help you when it happens for you. So, for depression, one of the best things you can have is sort of an accountability buddy. Someone that will text you to make sure you're up and getting out of bed. Or someone who will say, hey, did you take a bath today? Did you brush your teeth? Did you shower? What did you do? Accountability buddies are really good for all aspects of life. That's why so many people work out in teams. Like, fuck, I know I would never do anything remotely physical had I not started talking to a personal trainer who was like, you need to do this, 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 and this. And I had to do it, or else they would yell at me. And I told them to yell at me if I didn't do the things to make sure that I did the things. And damn it, I look fly as hell right now. I'm sure these alcoholic carbs don't count, but whatever. So depression is the opposite of anxiety. You want to be out of that stimulus-less environment. You want to be up and doing things. You want to be at least brushing your teeth or taking a shower or doing something that your brain interprets as productive, even if it's just folding a blanket that's lying on the couch weird. That's something I could do right now. There's a lot of things you can do when you're feeling depressed, like something slow and soothing. Massages are really helpful when that's a problem. Sometimes, fuck it, just lay in bed with some warm kind of drink, some hot chocolate or something. I don't know, I'd say warm tea, but oh, fuck, tea's disgusting. Why would you drink that? You can talk about something positive with someone. Maybe you are curled up in the blankets and can't even get out of bed, but you're on social media and someone's talking about a TV show you like. Fuck, talk about the TV show with them. Like, tell them how much you like it. Go back and forth about what you like about it. It will give you a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of dopamine. Take what you can get. Read a book. Watch TV. Do whatever is comforting to you. And that might be taking a bath. And it might take some energy to get up and do that thing, but that's part of the fight of depression, is finding the energy to just get up and do the thing you're trying to do. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but I believe in you. You can do it. I'm not being sarcastic right now. Fuck, I've been sad about shit and I've gotten up and gone about my day and it's turned out fine. I'm alright. Sometimes depression isn't just about a chemical imbalance. It might be a combination of that and other factors in your life. And I think for a lot of people that's, I don't know, like I don't want to say a low self-esteem thing. It's more like a core belief sort of thing. So a lot of people have the core belief that they're not worthy of things, or that they're ugly, or that they're worthless or undeserving. It's kind of one of the more prominent things I notice when I talk to people is that underneath all of their behaviors and responses to things, they have one core belief, and it's a negative one. If you have a positive core belief, like, I'm awesome, even if you're having the shittiest day ever, you don't feel depressed because you still have the core belief that you're awesome. But if your core belief is something negative, like, I don't deserve love, or I'm not worthy of other people, or something like that, shit, that brings you down, man. One of the things I like to do a lot with the people I worked with was give them a list of affirmations, because it's hard to think of your own. Like, when you can't think positively about yourself, it's so hard for you to come up with your own affirmations. So when someone else gives them to you, you can at least read them and think, this does or does not apply to me. And hopefully they all do. So some examples of that I have, like affirmations, are: I am lovable and capable. I have many good qualities. It's okay to think about what I need. It's good for me to take time for myself. Other people like to be around me. They like to hear what I have to say or know what I have to think. Others recognize that I have a lot to offer. I deserve the respect of others. I easily accept compliments and praise from others. I believe in my ability to succeed. I love myself just the way I am. I don't have to be perfect to be loved. These are just examples of some of the stuff that you might be able to tell yourself to help. I also have something called the Personal Bill of Rights. And I kind of stole this from a skill building resource for increasing social competency. I don't know where that is or where it came from. I just happened along the way, and I kept it because it felt right. But these are a list of rights that you have. I'm just going to do a few. I have the right to ask for what I want. I have the right to determine my own priorities. I have the right to express fear. I have the right to say I don't know. I have the right to be healthier than those around me. I have the right to change and grow. I have the right to be happy. I have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. There are so many rights we have that we don't think we do. I mean, when you're depressed, you feel like you are the bottom of the barrel, that none of this applies to you. But guess what? It does. You're a person just like anyone else. And just because you're feeling like you can't get out of bed doesn't mean that you are any less of a part of society than anyone else. So, newsflash, even if you're not feeling your best, you have the right to ask for help, to try to figure out what you need, to believe that everything is going to be okay as long as you take the steps to improve your life. Depression's a fucking hard one because it makes you feel 10 times heavier, like you can't do anything. But I promise you, you can. It's fucking easy when you actually get up and do something. But sometimes that can be the hard part. Just getting up and accepting that you have control over your life. Because a lot of the times, outside influence affect your depression. Outside influences can make you feel like you can't handle what's thrown your way. But I promise you, you can. So there are a few different ways to deal with depression. I still think having some kind of accountability buddy is the best thing for it, who can say, get your ass out of bed and do something, and someone who you will actually respond to. But there are different styles of coping skills that you could utilize. I'm not saying if they're negative, I'm not saying if they're positive, I'm just saying these are coping skills that people use. there are the distraction type coping skills, which is have a conversation with someone that's unrelated. Listen to the radio or do puzzles, do TV, play games, solve some kind of problem, clean up or tidy your house, do some gardening, arts and crafts, that type of shit. You could do a grounding exercise, which is do that hyper-focusing thing I was talking about before, and I think I may have mentioned more in episode 3, so take a listen to that. So do something that grounds your senses, like walk around in the grass barefoot, or squeeze clay mud, or do yoga, or meditate, or exercise. Have some kind of emotional release. Yell, scream, run. Do something that feels like it gets your energy out instead of just laying around. Do some kind of self-love. Get a massage, or massage your own hands with a really nice lotion, or do your nails, or make a meal that's really special for you, or take a bubble bath, or get some kind of treat for yourself. Maybe you really like fudge. I don't know. Get some fudge. You could challenge your own thoughts. You could write down all the negative thoughts that you're having and why those don't make sense. I talk a lot about that in my first 2 episodes about cognitive distortions. So maybe listen to those and try to come up with some ideas that might challenge all of the negative thoughts that you have. You could do something more spiritual, or I don't know, make yourself your higher self. Help someone else. Smile at strangers. Do a random act of kindness, or just go around petting all the dogs at the local park, or maybe at the local shelter or something. Join some kind of cause. Do something positive. I mean, depression is hard. I'm not gonna lie about it. It's difficult. How the hell are you supposed to get through something if you feel like you can't even get out of bed? I wish I could say... I don't wish I could say I know what it felt like, because I've never been depressed. But a lot of people have, and they get through it by just making themselves do it. It's hard to describe, but it's one of those things where you just have to take the first step. And the first step is just getting up out of bed, doing something for yourself, whether it be, washing your face, or brushing your teeth, or taking a shower, if that's something that you haven't done in a while. Depression can be hard. It can hit anytime, and it could last a long while. So you have to understand what it does to your brain, what it does to your body, and how you can cope with it. So yeah, it's a little bit different than anxiety, where everything's running at 100 miles an hour. It's running at 2 miles an hour, and you can imagine the frustration you feel if someone driving in front of you is going 2 miles an hour. It's the same frustration that you feel when your own body is doing that. So depression's a fucking difficult one. It's a bear, and we gotta wrestle the shit out of it. So coping can be difficult, but I think with possibly medication and a good program, maybe an accountability buddy, those are very helpful, and a therapist, you can make it. You can do this. But when it comes to the whole brain challenge thing and all the different ways that it affects your brain, there are so many different styles of depression and ways that it crops up in your brain that every person has a different medication that works for them. So if you do feel like you need medication, try different ones until you find the one that works for you. Because maybe your brain is the one that's hoarding all of the neurotransmitters. Or maybe you don't have enough receptor sites. Or maybe your brain is the one that decides that dopamine isn't a big deal and it doesn't have to produce that much of it. Like, there are so many different things that cause depression that you're not gonna know. We don't know how the brain operates. It's so fucking weird. So you have to try a few things before you figure out which one works for you. Because your brain can malfunction in a lot of different ways. That's just the human brain. And unfortunately, that's the way it works. So you may have to try a few things. And it may take like 6 months to figure out exactly what's going wrong. Because say you try a medication that's a SSRI, but that's not your actual problem. There's no way to figure out what your actual problem is, so you got to take the time to figure out if that is or not. So be patient. And just know that the more things you try, you might just be ruling out possibilities that are causing the depression in the first place. So don't get discouraged if you try one thing and it doesn't work out for you. Be open, try new things, and for the love of God, talk to other people about what's going on. Because if you have other people holding you accountable for just getting up and getting ready and going about your day, you're going to be a lot more successful in your life if you're depressed and feeling totally devoid of energy. So use the people around you. It's what they're there for. That you might think that they don't want to be there, but they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be offering their help if they didn't want to give it. So stop being pretentious and self-conscious and think that you're not worthy of other people's attention or love because you are. Shut the fuck up and just accept love. Okay? Let other people help you. Because out of everything I've learned in the psychological mind frame, I have learned, whether it be smoking cessation or addictions or anxiety or depression, having an accountability buddy really fucking helps. So make sure that you share your experiences with the people around you so that they can help keep you on track with what you want to try to do. The end. Fearscape Media Network. Peace.